Okay. So examples 9 and 10 are what's called amortization. And that is when, as we talked about at the beginning of these notes, when you borrow money, the bank charges you interest for allowing you to borrow money. And so however long you choose to keep it and don't pay the whole sum back, they charge you interest on the money that you're still borrowing. Now you borrow money, you don't typically give that whole lump sum of money back at once. You give it back in installments. You might be paying 1,000 or more euro or dollars per month to this bank or this private loaner, private loan company. And this is all something that's going to be very real to all of you at some point. So that's what amortization is. It's still calculated the same way on your calculator. So you borrow 1,000 euro at an interest rate of 8% and promise to pay it back within 6 months with monthly payments. So find the monthly payment required and set up a table showing the progress of the payment. So if you're borrowing 1,000 euro at an interest rate of 8,000, you don't know what your payment back is, but you do have a present value. So your present value is negative 1,000, or you could even do positive 1,000. I'm sure you guys have maybe mixed up plugging in negative versus positive and notice that it really has only made a difference so far in whether your final value is negative or positive, and then you probably just switched it around. Here we could make so n is 6. Let me focus here for a second. N is 6. We want to pay it back in 6 months. And then at an interest rate of 8%, it's always higher when you're borrowing money from a bank versus when you're giving money to a bank. They will always charge you a higher interest rate for taking money from them as opposed to giving money to them, which makes sense for the bank. It's not the best for you. Find the monthly payment required. So that's the PMT instead of a table. Okay. So then your present value. The reason why we do negative for these guys is because technically you're taking money out from you and putting it somewhere else. So we're going to actually do a positive 1,000 because you're taking money from somewhere else and bringing it to you. And then PMT is a question mark. We want to know what our payments are here, and it's going to give it back to us in negatives. Because then you're going to be taking that money away from you and giving it to somebody else. Your future value is 0. At some point, we want to pay back all of that 1,000 euro, which means that our future value, we have to talk about getting to the end. And then your compoundings are going to be per month. So your PPY and your CPY are both 12 again. So I'm going to go up, change my future value to 0. Payments, I'm going to delete. Present value is going to be a positive 1,000. Interest rate is 8. Sorry, I'm going up on the guy. And then N is 6. So you get negative 170.58. So your monthly payments are 170 euro and 58 cents. Just because I want to drive home a point, I'm sure I don't need to make, but you guys are all about to go into the real world. In this time next year, you're no longer going to be high school students and you're going to be kind of flying out from underneath your parents' wings and going to be maybe potentially making these decisions like this. I want you to take this amount and multiply it by 6. So I'm going to escape out of my financial solver, and I'm going to type in 170.58 and multiply it by 6. At the end of the 6 months, the 1,000 euro that I borrowed, I end up paying about, because it's 1,023, I end up paying back 1,023 euro, which means I end up paying about 23 euro in interest. Now, 6 months is a very short time for a turnaround for a payment. For a loan. So think about, and 1,000 euro is a pretty small amount to be borrowing. Typically, we're borrowing much more than that, and typically it takes us much longer to pay it back. So just think about that, is that the payments that you pay back, when you multiply it by how long you're paying it back and you figure out how much total you've given back to the bank, it will always be more than you originally borrowed, which is how banks make money, is by making you pay more on interest rate, which is smart for the bank. But you can be smarter and pay larger monthly payments back. Okay, Alexander wants to borrow 180,000 euro, which is more of a typical borrowing from a bank, to buy an apartment in his city. The rate offered by the bank is 6%, and the loan is taken for 20 years and will be paid in monthly installments. If only I knew how to spell. We're going to use this table. So this table that I've provided to you is what the table that your book provides to you as well. And the reason why your book wants to talk to you about it and why I want to talk to you about it is because typically this is what you will see when you go to the bank. And they're like, okay, you're going to borrow this much money. Here is your options in terms of monthly payments. These are your options in terms of paying us back. And you're going to look at it and you're going to try and determine under what percentage rate you fall, over how many years are you borrowing it. So in this first column, you can see loan term, number of years, right? So over how many years is it going to take you to pay it back, or how many years do you want it to take you to pay it back? You have to figure out what are the defining parts of your financial status in order to choose the right path for you, right? So maybe the defining thing about your status is how much you have to spend every month. So your monthly payments can't be larger than your salary that's coming in, but you're not just talking about your salary, you're also talking about your rent and the amount of food. And maybe you need to be buying a certain number of clothes for your, for whatever, or there's all sorts of other finances that come into it. Or maybe you've also got to pay for gas on your car. And then you've probably also got insurance on your car, right? So when we start talking about budgeting for our life, these are things that we need to talk about. Probably the most defining part of your financial status is going to be how much money you have free in order to pay back this loan that you want to get. So this is the table that they provide you. Monthly payments in dollars for every $10,000. So we've got $180,000. So whatever we have here, we're going to have to multiply by 18 in order to actually get our monthly payment, right? So we're borrowing it at 6%, which means we actually fall under this column right here. And we are borrowing $180,000 euro. And we're going to pay it back in 20 years. So they're asking us to say, okay, here we've got 20 years over 6%, and that's 71.64, but we're not borrowing $10,000. We're borrowing 18 of $10,000 or euro, whatever. And it's to make 180, right? 10,000 times 18 is 180,000. So our monthly payments are not going to be 71.64. Our monthly payments are going to be 71.64 times 18. Which is 1,289.52.